Hi, welcome to Car and Mechanical and welcome to the second top 10 eBay car video. So the rules for these videos are the cars need to be interesting, a potential project to finish, something to avoid, or maybe things that are investments or maybe quite cheap and fun. So we're going to go straight into the first car, and the first car is this Lamborghini Murcielago LP640 replica that's based on a MR2 V6. So if we have a quick look at the pictures, it looks like the project's fairly far along, and in the description it's telling us that quite a bit's been done to it and there's not a lot that needs to be finished. It's kind of suggesting that it can't be finished due to financial reasons, and being honest, this does look like one of the more complete replicas. Now, one thing that stands out, I really don't get why you'd get this far and not put the Lamborghini badge on. For me, maybe the current owner wants to put that on as the final mark. For me, that would be something that would really progress a project like this, just for when you look at it to kind of give yourself the nudge to move it along. However, I do wonder with replica cars, with the V6, it's probably 250 horsepower at the most, and you're going to build something like that, and if you come across a proper Ferrari or Lamborghini, they're just going to absolutely pull away from you. However, they're made for more visual reasons. So it does say the things that are left to be included with the car is most of the things left to finish it. Now, I wonder what has happened to not let this be complete. It said that it's being sold on for financial reasons, which you can probably understand. These kits can be quite expensive. It's just kind of a shame to not see it finished. Now, it's kind of interesting. It says that these are getting super rare now, and they've sort of gone down in the amount that are out there. Not really sure. It's true the Murcielagos have always been expensive. I'm not really sure I'd call replica kits getting rarer as such, because they're not the real thing to begin with. Anyway, interesting car, £21,000 or an offer. You could maybe finish it for not too much to have yourself a V6 engined MR2 that looks like a Lamborghini. Okay, and the second car is this Peugeot 205. It's a 1.8 litre diesel. It's got a current MOT on it, so it's actually roadworthy. This would be a going sort of car as such. And the reason I include this isn't because of what this is, it's because of what the other cars are going for and the fun that a Peugeot 205 can be. Now, the 205 shown here is a 1.8 litre diesel, not even a turbo, and it makes 60 horsepower. Why am I including this? It's a £500 car that's in fairly good condition, and it's quite a good representation of what the 205s can look like. Now, the GTIs tend to be a 3-door, but they start at about £2,000, going way over £10,000 for perfect examples. And the 1.6 GTI had 115 horsepower, and the 1.9 GTI had 130 horsepower. Now, there's a lot of prestige that comes with having an actual GTI, but one thing that I think could be interesting here is you could swap over the 1.9 litre turbo diesel engine from something like the 306, and they can very easily make 110 horsepower or 140 with an intercooler, and that would be a really cheap and easy swap to do to this. Or the HDI engine can go to about 125 to 140 horsepower fairly easily as well, and again, that wouldn't be a massively expensive swap into it. The HDI probably has a little bit more involved in terms of wiring, but you could have yourself a 205 performing type of car, giving it the coilovers, giving it suspension, giving it the brake upgrades for not a lot of money. Okay, the third car, if you can call it that, is an FDRX7. So the interesting thing about this is it's a complete shell. Everything has been stripped off, but it comes with a V5. So if this car was to be rebuilt, you'd have the ability to register it on the road, and you could drive it again. Now, looking at this, it's been left outside, so there is some surface rust. It does look cleanish in there. Now, I think it was used as a racing car. The front end looks pretty clean. There's not much corrosion there. So at one point when this car was used, it looks like it was looked after. From what you can tell from the pictures, and I've put this very carefully, it appears to be straight. It does look like it's going to need a clean up and sort of rust treatment. And it's had a wide arch kit on it as well, so you can sort of see these marks here. It's had over fenders and it's had the holes drilled onto it. And the other thing we can see is that it's had the boot floor cut out of it, so it would need a new boot floor put in it as well. However, this ended at £230. If you could gather the parts, if you had the skill and if you had the time and the money to restore it, you could end up here with a fairly cheap RX-7. Now, it's worth sort of noting, it's a complete bare shell. It doesn't have the screen, even that's been taken out of it. It's the complete bare shell, so anyone that would be taking this project on would be undertaking something quite large. Okay, the fourth car is the MGTF. So this particular one isn't a going concern. It needs some repairs, it needs some love. And to be honest, this is the case with a lot of MGs that they need ongoing sort of work doing to them. We can see, I think that might even be some arches starting to bubble there. But what's quite interesting about the MG, I think they're probably an underrated car at the moment. You can pick up working examples from about £500, and they're a lightish car. I think they're 1,000-ish kilos, let's say 11 to 1,200 to be safe. And they range from 140 to 180 horsepower, but they're a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car. It makes them one of the cheapest rear-wheel drive cars you could probably get next to an MX-5. Now, they've got some interesting things with the MGTF. They've got some known handling characteristics which needs tuning out. For example, some people drive around with a couple of bags of cement in the front bonnet or in the front boot because of it evens out the weight distribution a little bit and makes them a little more stable. But I think that what we might see happen with MGs is as they start to come off the road, we might start to see the value of these come up as people start to realise that they're actually not bad cars. I think where they were bad cars is where they were sort of £8,000 to £10,000, £5,000, and they constantly needed issues. My brother had one and it was forever needing repair, and in the end that's what, although he loved it, it was the constant repairs that he needed that made him sell it. Okay, car number 5 is a Volkswagen Corrado 2.016 valves. It's the same as the GTI engine, I believe. And this one is currently at £360. I'm guessing this will finish about 700-ish. I won't know for sure. I'll watch it to find out when it does finish. But what's quite interesting is that this one's in quite clean condition. It looks quite good. There are a few bits that need sorting. But I think that we're going to see these go up in value because of, I think they've been underloved for a bit, and they've got a great shape and a great look to them. I mean, especially the VR6 examples, but that's not to say there's anything wrong with the 2.0s. And if you're into your engine swapping with your VW Audi stuff, you can drop in the 1.8 litre turbo engine into these and you've got a really fun car. This is an unfinished project. It's been off the road for a couple of years. Assuming you got this for £500, a lot of Golf parts are interchangeable with it. It looks fairly clean. It looks like it does need some TLC. It mentions a few of the rust spots. I think that could be a good purchase for a nice sort of fun, unique car. Okay, car number 6 is this Suzuki SJ. It's a Jago Jeep conversion project. This one I'm just including because it's quite interesting. This has probably had a fair bit of money put into it, and I've not seen the bid shift in a couple. I think it's been put up on a 10-day auction, and since I first looked at it, I've not seen the bids kind of change. Now, this could be sort of a fun project for someone if you're after a vehicle like this. So it'd be like a nice kind of four-wheel drive car that's kind of retro modded to look like something a bit older. I'm not sure what would be needed to complete this. It looks like it's a fair bit of the way along already. There's a little bit of information in the description, so it's 1.3 litre. The V5 is currently under the Suzuki registration, so there may be some bits and pieces that need to be done in terms of the legal declaration for what this car would be. But for £300, I'm suspecting that it needs the rest of the sort of cab area of the body finishing. It needs seats, it needs all of the dashboard bits sorting. It's an interesting little project if you were that way inclined to have this kind of aesthetic. Okay, car number 7 is a 2001 Nissan Cube, and they've got on the description that it's rare, and to be fair, I'd say that in the UK, yeah, that is quite rare, and this is quite a unique car. Not sure I'd like all of the styling on it, but I actually quite like the function of these Japanese cubey cars, like this sort of square ones, and I'll cover it in some of my Japan videos that I've got coming up from my recent trip. But with this project, I'm going to say that this is one to avoid, mainly because the engine's in bits in the back. You don't know what's where. It's literally in bits. There's bits sitting on the crankshaft. This car needs a complete rebuild. It probably needs a new engine. I mean, you could probably get in there, and if you know what you're doing with an engine rebuild, you could do it, but you don't know what's missing. You don't know the bits and pieces you're going to buy. So at the very least, I think that this car would be engine swap territory if you can get a similar engine for it. And because of the engines in bits, I don't think it's worth the $12.50 that's being asked of it. Although it is a rare car, although it's got some nice bits and pieces if you like this kind of thing, you're taking this on with an immediate need to spend maybe £300–400 on an engine, or to rebuild that engine and get hold of certain bits and pieces to complete it, you know, gasket sets, maybe head bolts, who knows if the bearings need replacing, stuff like that. I find it kind of interesting. You know, potentially the seller is open to offers and everything. Yeah, so this is kind of the more interesting, but avoid unless you can get a bit of a deal on it, or you know, maybe you've got a spare engine sitting around, or you know just where to get a spare engine for very cheap. Okay, car number 8 is a car that I hadn't really even heard of until I came across this. It's a Hyundai Pony. It's a 1.3 litre. It's a front wheel drive car. Now, I think looking into it, they did do them in rear wheel drive in sort of their domestic market in Asia, but over here for Europe they would change to front wheel drive. The 1.3 litre engine makes about 66 horsepower. And I just thought this was quite interesting. It's probably quite a light car. This does need some TLC, but it's fairly unique. Although it needs things that need restoring on it, there aren't many kind of cars like this. And if I was sort of putting a gamble on a car that could be worth more in the future, if you had a field that you could park it in and keep it in good condition, this might be one of them. But I don't know if you're talking about sticking it somewhere into storage in 5 to 10 years time, it'll be worth 3,000, or you know, it'll go up by 500 quid, who knows. But yeah, this one is kind of low mileage. It's not really something we get too often, and it's one of the first Hyundais that we saw sort of mass sold over in Europe and the UK. Okay, car number 9 caught my attention because of the blatant honesty in the listing. There's a couple of bits and pieces as well. I didn't think PT Cruisers had this much metal that they could be made to look the rat look. I thought they had more plastic on them as well. But this is a full rat look PT Cruiser. I'm not a big fan of these cars in particular. This has been quite nicely done. It's sort of been done with an 0k given attitude. If you're looking for a car that's sort of going to get attention, this is certainly it. I just sort of found it quite interesting. It's probably not going to end for much more than it's currently going. I'll be very surprised if that gets anywhere near £1,000. I think maybe we'll see the final bids change by a couple of hundred. But PT Cruisers have a unique shape. They're not something you see on the UK roads very often, and this one would be unmissable in a car park. I think you'd be turning a lot of heads in it. You would be in a PT Cruiser, but I guess that's kind of the point. So the description is fairly brutally honest with it. If this was something you'd be going for, you know, you'd be doing it purely to stand out. It probably fits under the Bangonomics sort of category as well. This is probably a car that might run for 6 to 12 months or more. Okay, car number 10. This one's quite interesting. So this is a 1990 Vauxhall Nova, and these are becoming rarer. You're seeing less of them. I think in part because of they just rusted so badly, and I also think a lot of them probably came off the road in the scrappage scheme a couple of years back, where you could trade in any car towards a new car and the government paid £2,000 towards it. And when I first started driving about 12 years ago, these were around for about £150. These were kind of the absolute bottom of the market car. And I think what's happened is, as they've started to come off the road, it's probably going to be a common theme in these videos, they start to go up in value. Now this one at £400, which has also got a bid on it, it clearly needs a little bit of work to get it sorted and to get it back on the road. However, it's quite low mileage, probably not the hardest project in the world, and the reason I'm covering the Vauxhall Nova is, for years I think these have been considered sort of quite a cheap, nasty car. Now, if we have a look at a couple of the performance models, I think we might be quite surprised on pricing unless you've been following them. The GSI Vauxhall Novas are starting to go for about £8,000 to £10,000+. This particularly clean one here, that is the asking price, is £8,500, and this one here is up for 12,000 by it now, but it's got bids on it up to 9,000. Now the SR is more of the sports edition, so you are buying the more of the special performance edition of its time, and you know, there's arguing points, you could buy an older one and put a more modern basic engine in and it'd have more power, but there aren't many of these out there, and keeping them in good condition, everything is more difficult, and that's why they are starting to go up in value. And this is kind of the point with the series. I'm looking at some cars now, like probably the 106 is a good example. I think 106 GTIs that you can pick up for £300 in the future will head towards this kind of territory. So I think this one for £400, potentially that is an investment buy for someone, and it's almost towards the point, get it working, it instantly goes up in value, probably close to £1,000. Give it a few years as more come off the road, and that's going to start climbing more and more. Actually, I've just spotted that. That looks like arch bubbling there. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting to see where something that is very much been considered a banger in the UK, where the value is starting to go up. Okay guys, that's it for the second week of my top 10 eBay car picks. Be very interested to think of what you think of this week's selection. Have you spotted anything you think is interesting? Put some details in the comments below. Because eBay, the way the listings now go, when things finished are very difficult to find, just gives kind of what you found, maybe a listed number and sort of the value on it. I hope you found this video interesting. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video. And more than anything, thank you for watching.